Hi everybody, this is Jeremy Siskind here. I'm the author of Playing Solo Jazz Piano, now in its second edition, plus the Jazz Piano Fundamentals series. Book 1, Book 2, it's all great, they're all gems. And today I want to show you two different exercises that you can use to attach more to the melody of the tune as you improvise. And sometimes I have students, especially if they come from the classical world, who kind of ask that question of, like, once the head ends, what happens to the melody? You know, are we just forgetting about the melody? And I mean, if I have to be honest, for a number of improvisers, the answer is yes, that we're just playing over the chord changes. But some great improvisers keep that melody in mind, and I think it can be a really nice touch so that your improvisation sounds not just like it's appropriate over the chord changes, but that it really fits with the tune itself. So I've got two different exercises I want to show you. I thought I would use the tune Beautiful Love in order to do it, a lovely tune that I generally associate with Bill Evans, although certainly lots of great musicians have played it. And I want to start with this kind of ranking gradation device. Numbers are really helpful for me. So one thing that I do is I'll rank things on a 1 to 5, a 1 to 6, a 1 to 7 system, okay? And so let's say in this case, let's do 1 to 6. And so number 1 is going to be playing the melody exactly. I'm gonna just space these out. Number 6 is going to be improvising, nothing to do with the melody. Okay, so then you can kind of fill in the middle. Number 2 is going to be maybe just embellishing the melody, you know, small embellishments, maybe grace notes, maybe changing rhythms around, maybe adding in some more content. Number 3 is going to be maybe like a variation of the melody. By the time you get to number 4, you know, let's say you're highly varying the melody. Or maybe you're just only referencing the melody a little bit, and then by number 5, you're barely referencing the melody. Maybe you're just returning to it every now and then. So let me demonstrate how this might look. Of course, this is not the one and only great performance of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you see the chart for Beautiful Love over here. Great. And I'll let you see what I'm playing in case you're curious. So I'm going to start with number 1. I'm going to stick to this melody exactly how it's written. And if you're wondering, this has nothing to do with the left hand. The left hand, I'm going to kind of just be comping however I choose to. So number 1 should look really just like it does on the page. Okay, so arguably, that's not even a solo at all. That's just playing the head, right? Probably people would not be impressed if you showed up to a jam session and you played that. They'd be confused. They'd be like, oh, are we playing the head again? So here's number 2, which maybe is just going to sound like a small variation of the melody. I'm going to change some rhythms, maybe repeat some notes. Let's see what happens. hitting kind of every note of the melody. I'm just adding in quite a bit more, maybe back phrasing a little bit, playing some notes after they're written, or potentially forward phrasing a little bit, playing some things before they're written. So that's number 2, which again, I probably wouldn't show up at a jam session and do that, but maybe if I'm playing a trio performance and I play the melody pretty much as written once, that could be the second time. All right, so I'm going to number 3. We're getting towards the middle of the bunch now. So now I'm going to maybe go and stray off from the melody a little bit more. Let's see what happens. Here's my version of number 3. Big point in the melody, but maybe I'm going a little bit off track somewhere. Maybe the in-betweens are filled in a little bit differently. So that's number 3. Of course, the further we get, the harder it is to enumerate, but that's kind of the fun of this game, right? So here's number 4, where now we're really thinking more just content from the chord changes and less from the melody. All right, here goes nothing. 1, 2, 1, 2. Playing the melody, I do play so differently when that's my task, because I'm always having to think about the melody, so that when it does come time to return, I kind of know where I'm going. All right, so here's number 5, which, probably only if you're really paying attention should number 5 really have anything to do with the melody. So let's see what happens. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Some ideas, phrases, gestures from the melody, and I'm not necessarily playing at the same place or in the same order, but maybe I'm still using little bits of the melody. Maybe it was obvious, maybe it wasn't. It's hard for me to know how it came across. And then once I'm actually at a number 6, then I'm really just trying to think of the chord changes and nothing about the melody at all. So let me play a number 6 for you. This should just sound like your normal old jazz solo. At this point, it's kind of hard to forget about the melody, so I'm going to do my best. So 1, 2, 3, 2. So those were my interpretation of those 6 gradations. Playing exactly the melody, playing something nothing to do with the melody, and then everywhere in between. And that can be one way to organize a solo. If you're going to play a 6-chord solo, Maybe you first play the melody just as is, a variation, and you get further and further. I think that's a really kind of fun way to think about forming a solo. Now, if you're kind of wondering, well, how the heck do I do that? Let me share my second way to engage with the melody, which is a little bit more of a kind of precise theory-based thing, and that is to form a reduction of the melody, and then to improvise around that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose one note per measure to represent the melody. This is an art, not a science, meaning that there's not a correct note to choose. I think I'm generally, if there's a longest note in the melody, if there's one that's really strongly on the downbeat of the measure, then I'm going to choose that one. But let's just go through. I'm going to choose A for this first measure. I'll choose the F that's on the downbeat for the second measure. And yeah, I guess I don't have much of a choice. I'll choose the F in the third measure. So I don't really want to do another F, so I'm going to take this A to represent the fourth measure. Again, it's an art, not a science. You could say that I'm wrong. I don't want to say that it doesn't matter what you choose, but different choices will get you different results. So I'm going to take the C in the fifth measure at the beginning of the second line. I'm going to take the A in the third measure of that second line. So I'm going to actually try to take an F here just for a little bit of variety. I'm going to choose this C sharp because it kind of leads so nicely from the A up to this big E, to C, I guess down to this E. I hope this is super fun to watch. I'll take the G. I'm just going to get through the first ending, 4 more bars. A, C sharp, that's kind of a fun, note. E, and how about this F? Okay, so now I've got chosen notes. Let me just play what these notes sound like. So choosing those notes, you actually do get a bit of a feel for Beautiful Love rather than just, some chord progression that has a bunch of 2-5-1s in D minor and a bunch of 2-5-1s in F major, right? It is just, essentially different. So then what I would do is I would forget the rest of the melody, but I would think about kind of aiming for highlighting those notes. If you're familiar with the notion of guide tone lines, I think I would, use those notes as my guide tone lines. So I'm kind of, one way to think about it is I'm simplifying the melody and then reconstituting a new melody based on that simplified melody. Or I'm finding the skeleton and then I'm constructing around that skeleton. So let's see. So maybe my improv is going to be... Show you what I'm doing with the notes highlighted, because it'd probably be helpful for you guys to see where I'm choosing to hit those notes. So remember, we're starting with A, F, F. Oh, let's start one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. right? So the idea here is now we're treating these chords with content that's particular to beautiful love, instead of just, okay, you have to finish to A7 to D minor. And especially, I look at the second line. A minor chord is a very distinct sound with an 11th on top, right? The fact that over this C7 chord, we're kind of highlighting F triad, that's a very distinctive sound. And especially as we get to those are all just special sounds to the tune Beautiful Love. One last thought on this is that we can also use this as we're comping. It doesn't just have to be for melodies. So if I'm going to comp, but I want it to be clear that it's Beautiful Love, I can put these notes on the top of my voicing. So so if you're accompanying, assuming the other person's not playing or singing the melody, because then you probably are going to be a little bit in conflict, that's a really good way to also make sure that your comping has a strong connection with the melody. All right, folks, I hope that you have enjoyed this video. I love talking about this. I think it's so important. It elevates us from people who play the same way over every tune to people who are really engaging with the tune. If you enjoyed this, guess what you'd love? Jazz Piano Fundamentals Book 1, or Jazz Piano Fundamentals Book 2, or Playing Solo Jazz Piano, now in 2nd edition. Take care, everybody. I appreciate your views, your likes, your comments. I'll see you soon.